Have you ever met someone who doesn't just wear fashion, but breathes it, lives it, makes the world stop for a second just by walking into a room? What if I told you that even among the greatest artists, models, and muses, there is one man the fashion world quietly calls the exception? Stay with me, because today I'm sharing a story the world rarely hears. A story about why Taehyung is so special, not just to Celine, but to fashion itself. And if you're someone who believes that beauty, art, and soul can live inside one human being, you might want to subscribe because this story is going to stay with you. The first glimpse. It began quietly. No headlines, no camera flashes, just a moment. A man walked into a studio, tall, calm, almost unreal. He didn't speak much, but somehow, the room changed. We had seen hundreds of artists before. They all came with a certain energy, confidence, charm, fame. But Taehyung, he came with silence. And yet that silence said everything. When he moved, it was slow, deliberate, like someone who knew exactly who he was. He didn't have to prove anything. He was the proof. A stylist whispered beside me. He doesn't wear the clothes belong to him. I smiled because she was right. That day something rare happened. We didn't just meet an idol. We met a mood. And that mood stayed with us long after the aura no one can teach. There's a word we often use in fashion, presence. But what does it mean really? It's not about beauty, not about perfection. It's about energy, the invisible thread between who you are and what you wear. Most people try to create it. Taehyung simply has it. He doesn't walk into a room looking for attention. Attention just finds him naturally, like light falling on a face it was meant to touch. There's an elegance in the way he pauses, the way he listens, the way his eyes soften when someone speaks. Designers notice these things, because in a world of chaos and noise, someone who embodies calmness becomes magnetic. That's what Taehyung is. Magnetic without movement. A designer's dilemma. I remember once we were preparing an outfit, a bold, experimental look. It had structure, layers, a touch of rebellion. The kind of design that demands a confident body to pull it off. We thought, will Taehyung go for this? When he walked in, he didn't ask questions. He just looked at it for a moment, smiled, and said softly, "Let's try it." And then, he transformed it. What felt risky suddenly felt natural. What looked avant-garde turned into poetry. It was as if the clothes had been waiting for him. Waiting for his kind of courage. Because Taehyung doesn't wear clothes to impress. He wears them to express. Every movement becomes a message. Every glance becomes a language. And somehow, he makes even silence fashionable. The unspoken secret. People often ask me, what's Taehyung's secret? Why does he look so effortless? And I tell them, it's not a secret you can copy. Because it's not about style, it's about spirit. You see, most people wear clothes to become someone. Taehyung wears clothes to reveal who he already is. That's what makes him different. His fashion isn't performance. It's personality. When he wears something, it doesn't shout. It whispers. It invites you closer. To see the texture, the emotion, the humanity beneath the fabric. It's fashion as feeling. And that's the rarest thing of all. The human behind the elegance. One evening after a long day, I saw him sitting quietly backstage. Everyone else had left. He was just there, still dressed, still glowing under the soft studio light. I said, "You must be tired." He smiled, that small, gentle smile he gives when he means something. And he said, "I'm not tired. I'm just thinking about how many people worked on this jacket." That sentence stayed with me. Because in a world where fame can make people forget, he remembers. He remembers the designer's touch, the tailor's patience, the assistant's small adjustments that no one notices. That humility, that quiet gratitude. It's what makes his elegance real. True style isn't about looking perfect. It's about being aware. of the art, the people, and the emotions stitched into every piece you wear. Taehyung gets that. The moment that changed everything. There was a day, one I'll never forget. He was about to walk in front of an audience. Not for performance, not for music, but for fashion. Backstage was chaos. Flashlights, voices, last-minute touch-ups. But he was calm. So calm, in fact, that others started calming down just by standing near him. And when he finally stepped out, there was silence. Not the kind of silence that happens when people are unsure. The kind that happens when something beautiful is happening. And everyone knows it. In that moment, Taehyung wasn't just a guest. He was the language of the show. We as designers saw it clearly. The fabric didn't make him look great. He made the fabric meaningful. What fashion truly means to him. I once asked him, "What does fashion mean to you?" He paused. He thought for a long time. Then he said quietly, "It's like music. You feel it before you understand it." That's when I realized. To him, fashion isn't about luxury or labels or trends. It's about emotion. He dresses the way he sings. With honesty, with subtlety, with soul. Every outfit becomes a verse. Every appearance, a melody. He doesn't need to explain his choices, because his choices explain him. Why designers love him? Designers love working with Taehyung not because he's famous, but because he listens, he observes, he respects the art, he understands the patience it takes to create something timeless. And most of all, he trusts us, but never loses himself. That balance is rare, because most people either follow fashion blindly, or fight it completely. Taehyung does neither. He collaborates with it. He treats every outfit like a conversation, between who he is and what the world sees. And when that conversation ends, you're left with a feeling that you've just witnessed something honest. The power of subtlety. You know what the world loves about him. He never tries too hard. He doesn't need to. He could walk out in a simple white shirt, and somehow it looks like art. Because true elegance isn't in how much you wear. It's in how deeply you feel what you wear. And that's Taehyung's gift. He makes minimalism look luxurious, and complexity look effortless. His beauty isn't loud, it's lingering. It stays in your memory like a soft note that refuses to fade. When art meets soul, sometimes I think, maybe the reason Taehyung connects so deeply with fashion is because he understands art itself. He sees clothing not as decoration, but as extension of thought, feeling, and identity. Every pose, every glance. It's as if he's painting with his presence. You can't teach that. You can only feel it. And that's why, for many designers, he isn't just a muse. He's a reminder of why we fell in love with fashion in the first place. A lesson from Taehyung. Here's the truth. Fashion changes every season, but style, true style, never does. Taehyung reminds us of that. He shows us that style isn't about following trends. It's about knowing yourself. 'Cause when you know who you are, every choice becomes beautiful. And maybe that's why Celine and the fashion world at large see him not just as a celebrity, but as a philosophy, a living symbol of calm confidence, a reminder that elegance begins and ends with authenticity. The last reflection. Sometimes when I think back to that first meeting, the quiet man who walked in and changed the air around him, I realize something deeper. Fashion doesn't just need models, it needs souls. And Taehyung, he gives soul to everything he touches. He doesn't chase beauty. He creates it by simply being. He reminds us that the most powerful presence isn't loud or dramatic. It's gentle. It's the kind of beauty that doesn't demand attention. It earns it naturally. A message to the viewers. So if you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever felt like you don't fit in, or that your silence makes you invisible, remember Taehyung. Remember that sometimes your calmness is your strength, your uniqueness is your art, And your softness is your power. Because the world doesn't need another copy. Needs you. Why he's truly special. So why is Taehyung so special in the fashion world? It's not because of the fame. Not because of the looks. Not even because of the name. It's because, in a world obsessed with image, he brings back emotion. In a world chasing attention, he brings back art. And in a world full of noise, he reminds us of the beauty of silence. That's why, when the Celine designer looks at him, they don't just see a model. They see a moment in history. A rare kind of elegance that doesn't fade when the lights go off. Because real fashion isn't about being seen. It's about being felt. And Taehyung, he will always be felt. Pause. If this story touched your heart, subscribe. Because there are more stories waiting. About art, emotion, and the people who make the world quietly beautiful. Thank you for listening.